We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Tangi with Foreclosures Daily. We are a nationwide lead provider. We provide leads to investors, realtors, attorneys, and just your basic first-time home buyer. We've been in the business since 2004, and since then, we've been the internet's #1 destination for the most detailed information out there. I'm Tangi Cousins. I've been with the company since they opened in 2004, and I've helped many investors, realtors, and attorneys grow their business and help increase their revenues. We teach people how to use the different types of leads that we have to offer here, the hottest leads nationwide, and the do's and don'ts of marketing to them. You can find any of our past webinars on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube channel, type in Foreclosures Daily and subscribe to our channel, and any of our past webinars will be on there. I teach people a lot of different unique marketing techniques, and one of the investor webinars that I did is called the Innovative Investors Webinar, and you can find that on the new YouTube channel, and it digs a little bit deeper into what we do here at Foreclosures Daily and what we can do to offer you marketing techniques and stuff like that. You can email me, Tangi at ForeclosuresDaily.com, if you didn't get all your questions answered during the webinar or you have a question for me. And some of the ways we are different here at Foreclosures Daily, because there's a lot of lead providers out there, right? So how are we different than other companies out there? All of our leads have real estate attached. That's very important that you understand that. A lot of people don't know what that means. So let me explain that. Let's say 300 people may file probate in 1 week, and maybe only 15 of them are going to have real estate. Sorry, no, we're not ready yet. We'll be ready in just a few minutes. So maybe only 15 people will have real estate, attached. And we're only going to give you the 15 people that have real estate attached. Other people are going to give you like all 300. So it's really important that you understand that. And we do understand the importance of having fresh data. So all of our leads are available every week. So every single Wednesday, you're going to have brand new leads to go after. Now, we're only going to give you the ones that have real estate attached. So you will be first at the door. Types of leads that we offer. We do some things like probates, pre-probates, inheritance, code violation, eviction, divorce. Those are some of the hottest ones, right? Now, you're never going to get more than 25 leads a week per county. And the reason why we have a cap is we have to know what to charge you. But let me tell you something. If I told you that you can market to 20 to 25 leads and have the success that you'd get with 1,000 leads, you'd be all over that, right? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking at marketing to a niche group of people, but yielding massive responses, because you're targeting people who typically want to sell their property versus people who don't. Take probates and pre-probates for an example. Probates by far and pre-probates are some of the best leads you're ever going to get. They have the most equity. They typically don't mind taking a discount, and they're extremely motivated to sell their property. People tend to be older when they lose their parents. They're not typically young anymore, like children anymore. So they're usually responsible adults that have their own property. Because of that, they typically don't want mom and dad's house. They usually want to sell the property, right? So now you're dealing with a very motivated seller who typically wants to sell their property, and they don't mind taking deeply discounted rates because they didn't buy the property to begin with. So probates and pre-probates are amazing. You'll make a ton of money with them. A pre-probate is 1 week after the death. We verify there's real estate attached, and we give the lead to you 1 week later. A probate is 1 week after they file. We verify there's real estate attached, and then we give the lead to you 1 week later. The benefit of using a pre-probate is not only are you first at the door, but if they inherit the property via a trust, you could buy now, no lines, no waiting. And the benefit of using a probate lead is if they do have to go through probate, well, at least they've already filed and they could be closer to making a decision. So there's benefits to using both probate and pre-probate leads. So I recommend both of them. Honestly, it's called striking the iron while it's hot. And a lot of people have a misconception of probate and pre-probate, right? They think you have to finish the whole process before you can take ownership and buy the property. And that's not true. You can buy almost right away, depending on the county and the state. Most of the time you can purchase right away. And even if the judge has full authority or partial authority, you can bring the offer to the judge and he usually signs off immediately. So they can bring that offer right away to the judge at their next appointment, and they usually sign off relatively quickly. So it's not this really big, long process like people think, So those are some hot leads, and we got some really good bonuses to give you. If you purchase the leads between now and the end of the week, we're going to get some good deals for you. So these are some of the things we offer. We give you what we call a marketing toolbox here at Foreclosures Daily. And in the marketing toolbox comes our postcards and letters that we recommend that you use. These postcards are literally second to none. There's companies out there that will charge like $1 to $1.10 for these same postcards. We got this company to do it, to Go Big Printing, to do it for only 42 cents with postage using our special link. When you buy our leads, you get a special link and you'll get these postcards for only 38 to 42 cents. And that's with postage being sent out. That's like the cheapest out there I've heard of. We also give you other things, and this is our letter too. It's like a real good letter. And they do the handwritten font to make it look like you hand wrote it yourself. Guys, they only charge 64 cents for these. The minimum on the postcard is 50. The minimum on these is 200. But it looks like you wrote the letter and hand wrote the envelope yourself. And they're only charging 64 cents with postage for those. And here's some of the bonuses you get for buying leads through Foreclosures Daily. Besides the awesome postcards and the letters and the deeply discounted rates with the mail house company, we also give you a 6-step mailing campaign teaching you like how often to mail, the spacing in between, how many times to mail, what to mail first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So we give you my phone scripts, email to send to the attorney expressing interest in the property, a phone script for the attorney, a phone script for the family members. We give you a probate book. We mail the probate book directly to your property or business. And it was written by Kevin Sayles, Sayles. You can find him on Kindle as well. It's Kevin Sayles. And we actually do monthly webinars with nationwide speakers. So I've had the honor of having Kevin, the author of that book, on our webinar multiple times, teaching me 7 ways to make money with probate real estate investing. So those are just some of the things that we give you just for buying leads here at Foreclosures Daily. Now, I'm going to talk about our speaker for just a few moments, and he's going to come on here in just a few moments too. I'm going to stop sharing my screen while I talk about him. Noah has only been investing for 4 years, and you're not going to believe the progress he has made. In over 4 years, he has over 100 real estate transactions that he's had his hand in doing. 100 real estate transactions over that. And he's raised over $3 million in private money, guys. $3 million. He does fixes, flips, wholesales, Airbnb, and he's just now getting into doing some hotels as well. And he actually runs a very successful podcast called Chasing Freedom. So he's amazing, and we're so grateful to have him on here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to your speaker, Noah Evans. He's going to start sharing his screen, and he's going to turn on his video. Here he goes. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, Tangi, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Thanks for taking the time out to be on our webinar tonight to teach some of the clients on how you were so successful in just 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give preface too, I've failed a lot in that time frame. So, I don't want anyone to build this pressure on themselves that they have to build a business or build something that quick, because within that, what people don't see is all the failures and all the time and all the effort that we put into that. But yeah, I've had a really successful journey. Been very blessed. Been very blessed to be surrounded by people who are always doing bigger and better things than me. And so I'm excited to share with you guys my journey and some of the things I think that have helped me get where I am. Hopefully they can help you progress to whatever the next step is for you. And, Tangi, you've been a big part of my success too, with the leads that you've been able to provide me and my team too. So that's been really cool and helpful. But really, the essence of any real estate business, I don't care what field you're in, whether it's Airbnbs, single family, multifamily, whatever it is, it all comes down to leads. So I think a lot of people, they mistake real estate as the end product, but really, I think the reason I've been successful comes down to one fundamental, and that's that first, I believe I'm a marketing company, and my byproduct is real estate. So I control the deals. That's why I've been able to be a part of 100 deals. I may not have to rehab all of them. I may not have the long, lengthy process of every single deal, but because I bring the deal and I raise the money, I do all the hard, intangible stuff up front. A lot of times I pass off my deals to partners who run the flips for me. So that's how I was able to do so many deals, is leveraging my particular skill set, going 100 miles deep on one niche thing, acquisitions. And yeah, it's just been a fun journey. So
that's awesome.
Tangi, do you want me to just jump into kind of some of the tangible stuff?
Yeah. I'm going to mute myself and hide my video, and just let me know when you want me to pop back in. If I don't hear from you, I'll talk to you around 7:15.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And one thing I want to tell you guys too is, if you guys have questions, I believe that you can throw your questions in the Q&A. If I see them, I'll try to answer them just on an as-going basis. And then I know at the end too, we're also going to save time for some more in-depth questions. But if there's a little question or something you need just a quick answer to, throw it in the chat box and I'm happy to answer it. So what I really want to start off with is like the fundamentals of what marketing is, right? So there's really only a handful of ways that you can really choose to market for distressed properties or off-market properties or real estate deals in general. Sometimes they aren't distressed. So you've got like texting, cold calling, direct mail, pay-per-click, and then you can go really old school. And I actually like some of these methods, but like simply calling brokers and agents. But the key fundamental there is actually building relationships with them so that they know you and they trust you and they have a reason to give you a deal when it comes up, because they have access to give that deal to anybody. And a lot of them have previous relationships already with other people, right? So you've got to think in terms of like, how do you give value to those people? And that mindset of how do you give value applies to every single marketing channel. So think first, how do you give value to the person on the other line of that communication channel, whether it be the postcard, a text message, a ringless voicemail, cold call, or whatever? How do you give value to that person so that they want to talk with you more in depth? I think that's probably one of the fundamentals that if you take nothing away from this entire webinar we're going to do today, take that away. Focus on giving value to other people first. I see some questions pop up, so let's address these real quick. So what advice would you give to someone trying to choose their first real estate acquisition? Let's see, answer live. I'm not sure if you mean in terms of like real estate acquisition, like asset class, or real estate acquisition in terms of marketing channel. I guess I'll address both of those real quick. So you need to look internally at yourself. What are you passionate about? And where do you think you have a competitive edge? So for me, I felt like I had a competitive edge in single family. One, it seemed like the lowest barrier to entry, you know, like starting off, trying to go straight into like a big old, you know, self-storage development or something like that can seem pretty scary. So I started off with single family as my real estate type or choice or asset class choice. A lot of people start off in multifamily. It's your preference. I just felt like I had a competitive edge there. And then for the marketing channel, man, when I started off, I wanted to go cheap. So I went with driving for dollars, which driving for dollars is you literally hop in your car. In fact, my very first deal actually came from walking for dollars. I'd walk my dogs and we'd go walk around the neighborhoods and I'd look at distressed houses and I'd write down their addresses. This is so old school, by the way. I'd literally write down their addresses. I'd go home, I'd look up the owner, I'd buy the skip trace, and then I'd dial them and call them. Now she lived in my neighborhood, so eventually I just ended up going and knocking on her door. Yeah, so there's a huge benefit in these old school marketing channels, but I went with driving for dollars because it's super cheap. I think in the first 3 or 4 months I built up, and volume is key in driving for dollars. You can't go mark down 5 properties a day and hope to get some leads. So I think we had stacked up 600 or 700 different driving for dollars leads. And eventually we got a deal out of that. It took 8 months. So you can't quit. This was back in like 2017 or 18. It took 8 months from deciding I was going to do this first deal was a wholesale, deciding I was going to do wholesale single family home, to actually closing a check. In that meantime, how many times do you think I wanted to quit? Countless times. There's so many times that I was like, this doesn't work. I can't do this. But guess what? The only for sure way to decide you can't do something is to quit before you do it. So I didn't quit. We keep going, right? I hope you guys will do the same thing. Whatever it is you're chasing, whether you're going from 1 flip to 5, that's a difficult journey. It's all difficult, but it's all worth it, right? So you just have to keep going. You have to keep persevering. What type of, let's answer this one. What type of CRM or data management software are you using? That's a great question. So I am using Podio. I think Podio is pretty cool. You can customize it, build it out. You can buy different people's copies of Podio, which is really cool. But something you can start off with just a very simple Podio system. I'll go through a couple of different ways we use Podio. So Podio, one, stores our leads, right? A lead is someone who has at least raised their hand from our cold calling and said in some capacity, hey, I would sell at least now or in the future. We have 3 different buckets for those leads though. We have hot, cold, and medium. Hot means they're willing to sell in the next 30 days. Medium means they're willing to sell in the next 6 months. Cold means they're willing to sell in the next year. So each one of those buckets means something different to my acquisitions manager, Justin. Cold means he's not going to touch it because his time is valuable. So cold, he doesn't touch it. That just goes into our follow-up, and our VAs touch cold. Medium means he'll touch it in a few weeks, usually half the time in which they said they were going to sell. So 6 months, he'll touch base with them in 90 days or less, and he's going to personally call them because it's kind of a hot lead. Hot means he's definitely touching that lead almost immediately. Within 24 hours is the goal, because within 30 days, it takes 30 days or so to close a transaction. So he wants to jump right into that. The other thing we use leads for, I personally still spend my time talking to brokers and agents because I'm good at developing those relationships. So I'll store brokers and agents' phones or contacts into the CRM. And what's cool is later on, I can tag and detail out what type of conversations I've had with them, what type of deals they do. And, you know, if I end up in a particular market and I can't assign some deal, or I decide I don't want to flip something, or I need a connection, I can go into my CRM and I can type in some of those keywords like, oh, who's in South Bend, Indiana? Okay, boom, there's the 4 agents I've talked to in the last year in South Bend, Indiana, and I can send them all a message. So hopefully that answers the question on the CRM. All right, let's see. Do you use batch leads at all to full list and cold call them that way? Yeah, we do use batch leads. We actually use a program called REI Sift. If you guys have heard of them, really, really cool data management. So they'll actually help organize your leads, the leads you've called, leads you've texted. So the other way the leads work, obviously Podio helps us track the leads once they're in the system. But before that, let's break down what cold calling looks like real quick. So cold calling is essentially, most people use VAs, virtual assistants. We have in the past used a company called Star Virtual. Right now we're using VAs we just hired off of Fiverr and have been training for the last couple months. And we're beta testing it. I don't have all the answers on what's the most perfect way to do this. But we have 2 cold callers going at all times. They use what's called a 5-line dialer. 3 is pretty common. Basically, that means is 5 numbers can be called at one time. The reason I do that is right now, call success rates are super low. So we're just trying to churn through that and get a live answer and get them on the phone with somebody. If the number can't be reached, this is where REI Sift comes in clutch, where it's a really, really powerful tool. If that number can't be reached, it automatically gets tagged as it hasn't been reached, but it's been called. So then it gets filtered to the next bucket. If it hasn't been reached and nobody's talking to them on the phone, then a text gets sent. If no text has ever been responded to, another text gets sent, another text gets sent, another text gets sent. Once we've called it and texted it and got no responses, what's probably next? I'm going to just let you think about that for a second. So you want to use all of your data to its max capacity. If you can't reach them on the phone and you can't text them, how many other competitors of yours do you think go this 3rd extra mile? The last thing to do is direct mail. And if you're in the city, after nobody answers on direct mail, I'd probably drive by the property and then I would do a deeper skip. I'd try to find their family members and I'd call family. So, you know, if you think about, most competitors are probably going to stop at cold calling and texting, and they're not going to do anything past that. But if the lead can't be reached by phone and it can't be reached by text message, and you send a piece of direct mail to that lead, it's kind of like stacking the list. That's a pretty powerful list for us. We get a decent amount of deals that way. So that's been pretty helpful. And then door knocking, you really can't ever go wrong with door knocking, as we kind of mentioned before. But that's how the cold call process works. Those are some of the tools we use within cold calling. I believe REI Sift has a triple or and a 5-line dialer inside of the system, and that's the dialer we use. So next, what I want to show you guys is some of the flips, and we'll talk about the flip process, and we'll talk about raising money, and we'll kind of go through that. But before I move on, I love your podcast. Hey, thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate that. Let's see, done answering that question. How many months of pre-probate leads would you purchase initially? Okay, so Tanji's the expert to talk to about this, but what Tanji's probably going to tell you is you're probably wasting your time if you purchase less than 6 months of data. All marketing channels take time to be successful, right? They all take time to be successful. That's why when you're starting off, I recommend, you know, doing the best you can to keep those costs low, because it's really important that you can stay consistent on that marketing channel for a minimum of 6 months. Cold calling is a perfect example of this. If you grab some low-hanging fruit and grab a deal within the first 3 months of cold calling, that's an amazing, super lucky day. What's more common is that you're going to build your pipeline. You're going to build your pipeline full of leads. You're going to keep working those leads. And in the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to close deals. I feel blessed that I didn't have a super fast, quick, easy win, because what it taught me is that real estate takes time to be successful at it and have to be patient with it. Going back to the beginning of my story, it took me 8 months to do my first deal. I think that that's a great metric. If you stick consistent to marketing for 8 months, you're going to get a deal. But just be patient with yourself. Keep going, keep trying, you know, keep elevating yourself and sticking around people that are already doing the deals. Hire a coach, hire a mentor. That's going to cut your time in half. yeah, so pre-probate leads, how much would I purchase initially? Definitely minimum of 6 months, and realistically probably like a year. And then you just need to work the heck out of those leads. Going back to what we started off with, make sure you add value to those leads. It doesn't need to always be about closing the deal or making the most amount of money. When you're on the phone with those people, you need to understand they're going through a difficult situation, and you need to put that into your head to understand, hey, how can I help this person out of this situation? If selling the house isn't the best option for them, I think that we, as wholesalers, as real estate investors and developers, we should be honest about that and really try to provide a solution. So that's my answer to that. All right. Do you research the market before driving for dollars? Do you specifically target an area? So driving for dollars, you can do virtual driving for dollars, which is like going on Google Street View in the Deal Machine app. And then that's the app I use, by the way, is Deal Machine. So you can do that and just virtually drive, but driving for dollars really kind of needs to be, in my opinion, in your personal market. You could be successful in every single real estate market in the entire country and world, by the way. It's all about your systems and the leads you're getting, and buying the right deal, and understanding that you need to have a couple different exit strategies, and really just being diligent in your due diligence period. So I would do driving for dollars where you have your competitive advantage, which is in the market you live in, because you can actually go around and drive for dollars. Maybe you're not ready to take the next step and actually flip the house. At that point, maybe you can bird dog and give these leads to another successful investor and say, hey, teach me how to close the deal, give me your scripts, or let me work in your system for the next 3 months. I'll drive for dollars for free, but just let me be a part of the process and help me understand how to put this under contract. Then you go learn how to wholesale. Then you graduate from wholesaling. I just seen a video on this. You guys will like this. So they equated the 4 years of high school to 4 different types of real estate investing. So the first is wholesaling. That's your freshman year. The next is flipping. That's your sophomore year. The next is, I believe they said, buy and holds. That's your junior year. And the last is developments. That's your senior year. So I really like that analogy, because it does become easier at each level. If you've done the previous level, it does get a little harder if you try to skip levels. I see a lot of people try to go right into buy and holds. It's like they don't know how to flip the deal. They don't necessarily know how to do the underwriting. They're trying their best. And then that's a big long-term commitment to jump right into the buy and hold, right into your junior year. You can go do a wholesale, It's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. So as long as you can stick to it, you can make it simple. Go do a flip. The flips are really cool. It's a great way to put a bunch of cash in your pocket at once. And then use the flips to elevate your long-term buy and hold and change your lifestyle. You guys know my podcast is called the Chasing Freedom Show, because that's what we're after, is acquiring more freedom in our lives. Flips as a long-term play are just a high-paying job. So you need to make sure that you're acquiring assets that'll continue to pay you on a passive level. So, okay, hopefully that answered that one. All right, so let me show you guys this. I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to go over a couple different things. So by the way, if you guys stick with me all the way to the end of the webinar today, I'm going to give you I'll provide a way for you guys to get a copy of my underwriting sheet. And then in that email that I'll send back out to you guys as well with a copy of the underwriting sheet, I'll include a video specifically showing you how to use the underwriting sheet, because it can be complicated if you're trying to go use it without having a walkthrough of how to do it. But I'm going to show you guys just some of the important numbers to know, not only as a wholesaler, as a flipper, as a buy and hold, whatever you're going to do. You need to know this format, and you need to know the expenses at each level so you can make sure you're buying a good deal. Okay, so share screen. I'm going to share this screen. All right, we're going to come to that in just a second here. Okay, so I just want to see, can you guys see this screen? I'm just hoping you guys can see it before I start going through it. Nobody can see it. Tangi, yep, okay, cool. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so right here, you guys can see real quick the reps that me and my team have put in. I'm going to show you this. So I just built out this sheet. Bigger Pockets has free calculators. There's free calculators everywhere. I built out my own just because I just like to see my format. My team knows this. We know this. This is just how we've been doing it. You could also take my sheet if you stay to the end of the podcast and you get the copy of it and rearrange it and do your own thing with it. So look down here. I want to show you this. Got the flip template. Look at all of these properties that my team has underwrote. And by the way, we clear this out every single week. So every single week we're restarting this sheet, but That's how many deals. This is just one copy of it as well. But the key here is in real estate is repetitions and at bats. So if you guys want to do a deal, what's the one part of the deal you can control, or what's one part of that goal process that you can control? You can control your inputs, meaning how much effort you put in. You can't necessarily control when you get the deal or when you do the deal. So one thing I would highly recommend, especially if you haven't done a deal yet, don't make your goal contingent on you hitting, I want to buy a house that makes me $300 a month or $500, or I want to get into an Airbnb that makes me $2,500 a month by February 1st of 2023. You can't actually control that. Instead, look at, okay, you know, if you can call somebody like me up and say, Noah, how many times do you have to talk to leads before you get a deal? And then you work it back even further. Okay, how many cold calls have to happen before you get a lead? How many leads do you need to close the deal, right? So you work that process backwards. Then you can control your inputs. Okay, hey, so it sounds like I need to make 100 cold calls a day. And if I did 100 cold calls a day, ideally based off of someone, you know, my KPIs or someone else's KPIs, you should be able to close a lead after, you know, 35 days of making 100 cold calls. Okay, so your input goal, make 100 cold calls a day, Monday through Friday. That's something you can control, and you should feel really good about yourself and understand that you're on track if you're making your 100 cold calls a day. But you can't control like when or how much cash flow ends up coming out of that first deal or any deal. Within reason, we can add some metrics in and try to come close, but ultimately track and add KPIs and judge your success off your KPI, hitting your KPIs, not off of an outcome, because we're not in full control of the outcome. All right, so let's break down the sheet. So ARV means after repair value. After repair value is based on comparables for single family homes. So comparables are comps. Comps are basically other homes that are very similar to the subject property or the lead or the deal that you're looking at in this example, right? So if you're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, you know, you need to comp that home to other 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes. So in this example, we thought that the back end value of that home was $475,000. Commission's 4.5%. So one thing, that's actually off by 0.5%. I am a listing agent as well. I have my license, so I help other investors buy deals sometimes, but mostly we list our own flips. Sometimes we list our own hotels. So basically you need to account for the commission. The cool thing is if I really wanted to make a deal work, because I am my own agent, I can lower my commission down to 3%, which basically means I'm only paying the buyer's agent. I'm not going to pay myself. So the buyer's agent is going to take $14,250 on the back end of this deal. It's just the cost of doing business. Don't freak out about the numbers or worry about them. Just understand that you just need to know your profit number. So closing costs, this is really important to know. Each county or state's probably going to have a different metric for how much you spend in closing costs. So in general, I'm spending just under 1% of the back end value of the home, the ARV, in closing costs. I would say for most investors, it's pretty typical to end up at 1% to 1.5%. I do enough deals that I've negotiated that price down. And the title company is really an extension of my business. I have a really close relationship with my title lady, my title escrow lady. And so that's a relationship I highly recommend you guys focus on and develop, and just treat them right, because they can do a lot for you when you're treating them right. So rehab, $50,000. There's a lot more that goes into this. We're probably not going to go into rehab budgets and creating scopes of work on this webinar because we'll run out of time. But knowing your rehab numbers is really important. So profit. So ideally, in a strong market, my rehab and my profit need to be the exact same number, meaning whatever I spend on rehab, I need to earn in profit. They need to be equal. Why that's important? Having your rehab and your profit be equal numbers, and everybody might say something different on fix and flips, but for me, this is a great judge of risk. If you have to do a $100,000 rehab, but you only make 20 grand in profit, that's a super risky deal. Two things go wrong. You're off on a budget on the flooring by just a few square feet. You know, you have to replace a furnace and you didn't think about it, or you missed it in your initial walkthrough, you're screwed. So $30,000 rehab, I'm okay with a $30,000 profit because it's a smaller rehab. So I'm okay with a smaller profit. If I'm spending 30 grand, that's a small house. That's probably going to be less than 1,200 square feet. If I'm spending $100,000, I really want $100,000 in profit, because a lot can change really quick in something like that. Your $100,000 rehab could become 150, you might have a small market correction, 5% or so. Now you're walking away with 10 grand. There's a lot of risk in this business. That risk is never going to go away, but there's also a lot of reward when you learn how to do it well. So as you can see, these are almost dollar for dollar. Our market in Boise, Idaho is shifting pretty fast. So our metrics are starting to change. Let's go through that real quick. On ARVs, so in my shifting market, which has dropped about 20-ish% in the last 120 days, creates a great buying opportunity for buyers, by the way, horrible opportunity to sell your flips right now. I'm taking all of my ARVs and I'm going anywhere from 8 to 12% below the current value of the homes on the market that are pending. Why is it dangerous to go back 6 months? Well, the homes today aren't selling at what the homes were selling 6 months ago. So those values are not comparable. Why do you want to go off of pending comps exactly right now or within the last 30 days or anything sold in the last 30 days? Because that's an accurate reflection of what's going on in today's market. And this market's changing really quick right now. And you might be in a market that's not changing super quick. So you can go back 6 months ago and look at your comparables or recently sold homes that are similar to the property you're looking at buying. All right, so seller's asking price. This is basically, you know, what they want to get out of the property. And here's how we determine if we can make that work. You pay for closing costs twice, by the way. You pay for closing costs when you close the deal, and you pay for closing costs when you sell the deal. When you close the deal, you're the buyer. When you sell the deal, you're the seller. Sometimes I'll pay for both sides of the closing costs on the purchase. In this example, I just have it that we are just paying for the closing cost on our side. So we're going to split that with the seller. Holding costs is really important to know. If you're a new investor, I highly recommend that you have your reserves up front. Don't think that you're going to just be able to make that payment out of your own expenses. If you're raising second position money, meaning you're raising private money to fund your down payment and potentially your rehab, raise enough to cover more than what you're budgeting for the holding period. So on average, I believe that most of my holds are going to take me 6 months. You see 7 in here. I'm adding an extra month. And realistically, in this market, we really should be adding 2 extra months because of hold time. So I'm going to change that to 8 points. My hard money lender charges me points. He charges me 2 points. Points are basically they're in relation to the purchase price. They're going to charge me 2% of the purchase price. One other important thing to note here, you notice that you see a little 0.9 here. I'm only paying 2 points on how much I borrow. My hard money lender requires I bring 10% down, right? So 90% of this number times 2 is $5,700 in points that's due at closing up front. Everyone can negotiate different things with their private or their hard money lenders, excuse me. But I pay 2 points. So let's go back to holding real quick, because I forgot to mention this. Holding, I pay 7% annualized interest on my holding. That's not super normal, and it's probably doesn't even exist at this exact moment in time because of interest rates. So I think probably what would be some fair numbers, just so you know, and you guys aren't getting screwed over by hard money lenders out there right now. I would expect to be paying probably about 12% annualized interest and right around 2 points. That's pretty standard. That's pretty normal, and that's probably where, you know, most hard money lenders are at right now. Once you get up into that 15% range, unless this market keeps changing and interest rates keep going up across the board, 15% would be really, really aggressive. That's probably not a hard money lender I'd go with. There are a lot of other options out there. All right, so private money needed. Here's a very, very important concept to understand about how I run my business. I don't put my own money into my deals. Let me tell you why. If I put my own money into my deals, I'd be limited to doing 1, 2, 3, 4 deals at a time. But by putting other people's money into the deal, yes, I make less money per deal, but I can do more deals, which for me is actually less risky. Right now, my market's tanked 20% in 120 days. If there are people telling you that that doesn't affect their business, they're completely lying to you. I'm here to be transparent. I'm here to help you guys grow. I'm here to open up my business, my processes, my systems, my sheets to you guys. And me being transparent, I hope that it helps you become a better investor. So I have flips that are definitely going to lose money over the next 90 days, right? That's just the nature of the game. I've won for a really, really long time. And now we're in a declining market. I bought in an increasing market. I never bought off appreciation. You know, we always run our numbers based off of comparables, recently sold homes. But this is something that even nobody could have predicted this. Nobody has a crystal ball. But by me having multiple deals in multiple states and getting to that point of scale, now my portfolio is going to be okay. I'm going to be fine because some of my wins will cover up some of my losses. Some of my cash flow will cover up some of my negative expenses on my properties over the next couple of months as things change. You've got to be prepared for that. Make sure you have personal reserves and savings, and you've got to play the game. There's a lot of reward for this. My life's been personally changed forever through real estate. So even as we go through these losses, and yeah, it'll hurt and sting, I'm not going to stop playing this game, because if I stop playing, I never get to see the full realized version of who I should have become and who I could have become by continuing to play the game. So Sorry, a little bit of a motivation there, but stick to the spreadsheet. So I raise private money. We're actually going to show you guys today my private money lender packet. I'm going to go through it really quick because I want to leave more time for questions. But I raise private money for the down payment, for the holding, and sometimes for a good portion of rehab. I want to make one really important distinction on flipping houses. Whether you're doing Airbnbs or you're getting ready to do a buy and hold, I think this is important for all of it. If you're getting a rehab loan from a hard money lender, I really want you to write this down. Hard money lenders will not give you the rehab budget at closing. They expect a certain amount of work to be done first before they'll give you a draw to reimburse you for the construction work that you've done. So for example, on this deal, we have a $50,000 rehab budget. They also charge you every single time you go take a draw. So let's say I do 4 draws throughout this project. Well, I'm not going to take my first draw until I've done what? $13,000 in work first, 12,500. So where's that 12,500 come from? It has to come from my private money investor. I have to raise it up front. So you have to have a portion of your rehab in cash up front because you have to front that rehab. Then they reimburse me my 12,500, right? And now I'm rolling. Now I can use that 12,500 that they just reimbursed me to finish the next 2/4 of the project. And they're going to reimburse me again. Then I use that next 12,500 to do the third portion of the project, and then the fourth, right? So you just have to watch that and be careful of that. Make sure you're raising enough to start your rehab. I've seen a lot of people get stuck where they get into the deal. They're like, I'm doing it. It's my first flip. And then they go to the lender and they're like, wait, aren't you going to give me money to do this rehab? And they're like, no, you got to do it. You got to do a portion of it first and we'll reimburse you. So just don't let that catch you by surprise. Okay. So this is really cool to note. Now it's going to add up my total purchase cost. So you might think, oh my gosh, he's going to sell this house for $475 and he's going to sell it for, or he's buying it for $322. That's a huge spread. He's going to make so much money. Maybe. Depends on how much you spend on rehab. Depends on how long I hold the house for. So our total purchase cost is $400,000. Our total sales cost, and sales includes profits, right, is $62,000. So our all in, including the profit we want to make, is $462,000. So if I can at least sell this house for $462,000, it means that now I'm dipping into my profit. Renegotiate or add profit. If this number is negative, it means that you're not buying a good enough deal. If this number is positive, it means you have more profit than what you're projecting to have. So in this particular deal, we'll actually be able to make $57,000. And that's with an 8-month hold period, right? So again, you got to underwrite these deals conservative. If it turns out great, you make more money. If you were right and things went wrong, at least you protected your bottom line. Okay, so then it comes down to here. Here's the 3 offers we're going to make. We cannot offer more than $334,000. Why is our offer price more than our seller's asking price in this example? Because we have $12,000 buffer before we meet the bottom line of our profit. I don't want to make less than 45 grand, right? Let's change some of these numbers just to look at what happens. Say we wanted to make 65 grand because the market's super risky and we're like, dude, we're not going to do it unless we're going to hit a home run. If we wanted to make 65 grand, come check this column out. We're actually negative $7,000, which means from this offer price, we need to go 7 grand below, and that becomes our new ARV. Does that make sense? So max allowable offer now is 314, but really we should go in and start at 295 or 310. I'll explain this right now. We go in slightly below so we can let our sellers feel like they're getting a good deal, right? If we go right in at 314 and say, look, man, this is the max we can pay, almost guaranteed that they're going to counter back and say, well, can you just do 320? Okay, so let's say we go to try to do 320, right? We go to try to do 320 because we're trying our best to make something work for these guys. We're 5 grand above what we can actually pay for this project. You can take that risk if you want to, but now you're dipping into your profit bucket to do that, right? So let's change this back to 55. Let's change it back to 45 is where we were. Well, that would be nice. Okay, so I always like to go in just slightly lower. And as I increase my offer, there's 2 things I like to do specifically. The first time I increase, I like it to be a bigger chunk. So if I can come up $2,500, $3,500 on that first time that they counter me, hey, you know what? I'll come up from, you know, we're starting at 330. I know I can pay all the way up to 334. I might come up $2,500 that time, right? And be like, you know what? I'm trying my best. I want to make this happen. I want to see this work for you. I'm going to come up $2,500 in my offer. They're likely to say, oh, let me think about it and all this, you know, they're going to hem and haw. And then I like to go back one more time with a smaller increment, because what it shows is that you're being stretched. You're being compressed down, and you're trying your best to get up to their number. So that first step is bigger. The last or second step is it's just slightly more, because then they feel like they're squeezing you, right? And they're winning that negotiation. So that next one, I might only come up, hey, I can come up, it depends on the size of the deal. But I might be like, okay, I came up $2,500 already. If I come up, another $1,000, is this something that would work for you? If not, it's totally fine. If it is, then, let's move forward. So anyways, this is the rehab sheet. You guys stay through the end of the call. I'll make sure I get you guys a copy of this. I'll give you a way to give me your email where you can get this copy in. Let's address these questions real quick, and then we're going to move on to private money. Okay. What is the closing cost in New York percentage? Answer live. So I don't know what the closing costs are in New York. What I'd probably do is call your title company and say, hey, in general, is there some type of math you can show me that gives me an idea of what type of percentage I'm going to be paying as far as closing cost goes on a transaction? So if I'm going to close a $700,000 house, what's my closing cost going to be? You can even just take that closing cost divided by 700 grand. There's your percentage, but I don't know what the closing costs are in New York. Okay. Tim asked, what percentage do you drop ARV for today's comps? Tim, that's an amazing question. That's really thoughtful. I really like that you asked that. It depends on the market. So in Boise, I'm dropping my comps, or I'm dropping my ARV generally 8 to 12%, because I'm projecting that this market continues to decline in the next 6 months. How long do these flips last? 6 to 8 months. So I'm projecting that during my hold period, I'm going to lose value. So I just need to buy a better deal. A common misconception, a thing that I hate hearing people say, is that they're going to time the market. I've done over 100 real estate transactions, and even I can't time this market. So anyone that's going to try to time the market, good luck. You're not going to be able to do it. The best real estate investors, the guys that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars of deals, the guys that I look up to, the guys that I hope to aspire to be like one day, they are buying deals, whether the market was good or bad. They just change the paradigm of which they buy in. So obviously, we're buying more conservatively right now. We're adjusting our values down. We're adding extra timelines to finish flipping, and we're adding extra buffers for holding longer. I hold long-term rentals in South Bend, Indiana, and in South Bend, we're still buying, long-term holds. So if good fourplexes, triplexes, duplexes come up, we're still going to take them down. In that market, my ARV might only drop, 5 or 6%. It's not an appreciating market; it's just a cash flow play. So the market definitely determines, how you should be adjusting that. Okay, where did the renegotiate or add profit number come from? Let's answer this one. Okay, so Nathan asked, where did the renegotiate or add profit number come from? Let's go over that real quick. Okay, renegotiate or add profit. This is basically just what we're all in the deal for, subtracting, let's see, C3, which is the ARV. So ARV minus the total, this little column that says total or lower than ARV tells us what our total profit's going to be. If it's over, it's going to be a positive number, meaning we have extra profit on the deal. If it's below, it's going to be a negative number. So watch this. If we change this to a 350, the seller wants 350, we need to come down 18 grand, and that's actually going to hit our max allowable offer. So, if we got this for 200,000, we are $144,000 over our target profit of 45 grand. So the total profit ends up being 189,000. All right, cool. So this is my is it a deal sheet. Again, at the end of the call, if you guys stick all the way through, I'll have a way for you guys to reach out to me, and I'll be able to get you a copy of this sheet. Looks like we got one more question. Yeah, no problem, Nathan. Absolutely happy to help. Okay, so this sheet, just as a recap of like why this is helpful. This is helpful for buy and holds, right? You need to know if you can buy the deal and make it a good deal. This is helpful for Airbnbs. At the fundamental basis of whatever your exit strategy is, you need to know how to buy right. You need to know how to underwrite these numbers. You just need to understand these fundamentals, right? All the other extra strategies build off of this fundamental building block of knowing your numbers when you acquire the deal. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys is how you can do deals, because a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, I don't have 100, or where's the private money? Where did this go? I don't have $63,000 to do this deal, right? So I'm going to show you the pitch deck that I give my private money investors how they fund my deals for me and how I'm able to do more deals. See a new question. I have Zoom with, or you got to do something with your daughter. I'm pretty sure you have Tangi's email, or you can reach out to Tangi and Tangi can get you my contact information. Cause I see that you're leaving, so hopefully that helps. All right, cool.
Just so you know, this is going to be recorded and we will be placing this on YouTube tomorrow.
Yeah, cool. All right, so make sure we still see my screen. Perfect. Okay, so this is my investor packet. Slideshow. Okay, so for my students, this is something I help you guys create. And for my students, I actually jump on you guys' investor calls with you. And I'll help you walk through, your investors through a deal and make sure that you're putting them in a good deal and you're in a good deal as well. But this is actually what I give my investors when we go to raise money on a deal. Eventually they'll come to trust you, and you'll just send, a lot of my guys now, I just send them a spreadsheet, say, look, this is the deal. Here's where we're at. Here's how much money we need. And they say yes or no. And it's pretty simple. But up front, you really need to explain yourself, tell the story, show some examples. And this is what's cool. My students get to use my deals as examples. And so then they go in and they steal my credibility, which is cool. They borrow it, right? It's one way to have credibility. If you've never done the deal, take credibility from a mentor. That's a weird concept, but like, listen to the pitch. It's actually a pretty powerful pitch. So imagine you've never done a deal before, but you say, hey, look, Bob and Joe, you're thinking about investing 50 grand. That's a huge investment. I want to show you why your money's safe with me. Yes, this is my first deal. I know that's a concern of yours. I actually have a mentor who's done over 100 real estate transactions. Here's some of the deals he's done, and he's personally walking me through this transaction. Okay, so that pitch alone relieves a lot of the tension. Notice that I also called out all of their fears ahead of time. What's left for them to call out? I acknowledge it's my first deal. I haven't done a deal before, but what I have done is I've hired a mentor who's done 100 different real estate deals, and he's watching over this transaction with me. He's involved in the numbers. He's looked at it. And he's making sure that I'm making a good call on this property. All right, so we're gonna go next page. So invest with us. Really simple breakdown. I try to keep it clean. I send these to the investors ahead of time so they can digest it. Then we go through it together. So then they're focused on me and what I'm saying, and I can answer any questions that they have. Secure way to grow your capital and tangible assets. Average hold period, 6 to 12 months. Mind you, I know that my flips only take 4 to 6 months, but I always put down longer on my promissory notes. Usually we're adding in an 8 to a 9 month promissory note. Promissory note is right here. It links your capital to the physical property and ensures that before the partners are paid off, any profit, your investment is returned to you. So these lenders, these private money lenders, usually go into what's called second position on title. First position is your hard money lender. Second position is your private money lender. And they are in front of you, meaning if there's only enough money to pay off first and second, you're the only, as the investor, you're the only guy that doesn't get paid. Everyone else gets paid before you do. But I think that's the way it should be, right? These guys are putting up the money. We're going to do the work. And, we need to make sure we do a good enough deal to get paid. Average returns are locked in at, average returns are locked in at 10 to 11% annualized, but are based on the project and capital invested. You guys will have to determine what interest rate works for you. This interest rate works for me and my deals. You'll need to run the numbers. You'll need to say how much you can pay your investors. You need to look at the type of investment you're doing. If it's an Airbnb, a long-term hold, maybe you need to leave them in as equity partners. Maybe you only pay them 3 or 4%, annualized interest on their money, but then you're going to give them some cash flow or some equity play later on in the deal. One thing I will tell you is that interest or, what's this term? Debt is always cheaper than equity. So what's debt? Debt is this. It's taking on this promissory note and paying back 10% annualized interest. Equity would be giving away ownership in the property. Debt is always cheaper than equity. I face this. I see a lot of my buddies make mistakes with their employees. They have some really high level employees. They start to give away equity rather than giving promotions because they think it's cheaper in the short term. But had they just given them a raise, that would have satisfied that employee's need. Instead, they just gave away equity. And now everything they do in perpetuity in that investment company, that employee gets a part of, whether or not they're performing going forward. So if you can, just take the debt on. Don't give away equity. If giving away equity is the way to make the deal happen, especially if it's your first deal, I would be a whole lot less concerned. Just get your at bat, get a single or a double, and just get out there and start playing the game. But my preference is always to give away debt, not equity. So each property is limited to 1 or 2 private money investors to limit the security position to a max of 3 lenders. The institutional lender and the private money investors like yourself. So we never have a security position in the property, meaning, we just have to perform to get paid. Okay, so we're going to go through this pretty quick. This is just a comparison, right? And actually in today's market, this looks absolutely different. The stock market, I have stocks. My stocks are basically at like a 2% return. And I've owned most of those stocks for 5 or 6 years. So in the last 5 or 6 years, my average portfolio is at 2%, by the way. The risk is high. I always like to give this analogy. If Elon Musk gets caught smoking pot with an alien and people don't like that, his Tesla stock can drop to zero. It can literally, that company could go under because of some crazy public thing that nobody can control, right? Real estate can't go to zero. The property can burn down, the market could tank, there's still value in the land, there's still value in the house. It cannot go to zero. Stocks can definitely go to zero. So in my opinion, the risk there is medium. Guaranteed stocks are not guaranteed, right? Meaning there's no personal guarantee on the stocks. Those companies don't have to pay you back if their stock price drops. Okay, CDs, super low return, but they are guaranteed. The risk is super low. It's pretty much guaranteed, but it's not very much income, right? A 401k, not a bad investment. It really sucks for people who had, 90% of their retirement hedged in the stock market. Risk is medium, can definitely go down. It's not guaranteed. Okay, private placement investment with my company. Here's what the return looks like. The risk is not non-existent. I would never, ever tell any of my private money lenders that the risk is not non-existent. But the risk, in my opinion, in a tangible asset is far lower than the risk in these other assets. Is it guaranteed? A lot of my promissory notes are personally guaranteed, especially in the beginning. It just basically means if for some reason that property tanks in value and I can't pay off that second position entirely, I'll carry their debt forward. What that basically means is, say the property only cleared enough to pay off half of their $50,000 investment. So where's that other 25 grand come from? I'll hold paper is what it's called, meaning I owe them 25 grand and I'll pay them off on future projects. That's what a personal guarantee is. And it does matter how you write that. That's very important. So when you do a promissory note, make sure you have an attorney that drafts it up for your specific state. This is not legal advice, just make sure you go talk to an attorney. But yeah, this is what this looks like. All right, so I like to give them a breakdown of who they're working with. So here's me, here's what I've done. This is my team. We break down who Justin is, who Sam is, who Caleb is. This was updated to reflect some of our stuff for Airbnbs because we started doing a lot more Airbnb holds. So that's where Caleb came in, our experienced curator, Sam, our operations manager. A lot of the emails they'll get are from Sam, so it's cool for them to understand who she is. And then Justin's our acquisitions manager. It's good for them to know who he is as well, because a lot of like the signing documents will come from him, especially when they're getting ready to do some deals with us. So I like to show my properties. Here's the flips completed in the last 12 months. We got 3 on the market. This is the pending profit. This is actually totally different. This market has changed super quick. Got a couple active projects, done a couple of wholesales in the last couple of months. Private money that's currently under contract, meaning it's in these deals. We got 2.1 out. This is how much returns we've paid in the last year. This is the total company profit. Total company profit does not mean that's what we're taking home. We paid a lot of salaries, a lot of commissions, pay a lot for marketing. All right, so here's an example of a deal. So purchase price, we bought this house for $265,000. It looked like this when we bought it. We spent $74,000 on the rehab. Here's what it looks like after the rehab. The cash invested total, because rehab is not all the cash you need. You also need your closing costs, you need your holding, you need all of that. We had $104,000 in this deal in its entirety. We sold this house for $459,000. We made 64 grand. To me, everyone calculates ROI a little differently. My ROI on this deal was 16%. Something I didn't have my own money in it, so my ROI is infinite. However, I like to calculate the actual cash in the deal over the net profit. That's how I get my ROI. We actually did this one really quick, and we only held this property for about 3 months. So we flipped this in about 45 days, had it up on market, 1 failed transaction, and put it back up. And I also like to, I like to write out what I learned and what mistakes were made on the flips. And I like to be fully transparent about that, because if an investor feels uncomfortable with the mistakes you've made and the fact that you're admitting them, probably not a good investor for the deal. Mistakes are made in these projects all the time. I still make mistakes in my flips. I have a huge, massive flip in the north end of Boise right now, which is like this historic area. And, you know, I did not budget correctly for paint at all. I was completely off on paint by like $4,500, which that matters in a deal, especially in a declining market, right? So another example of a deal, we're just going to go through these pretty quick. Whoops. So these are just some of the deals that we've done. So this one's funny. We sold this one to a hedge fund for $570,000 quite some time ago. And that has been on market from that hedge fund since they bought it from us. And they're now below what they bought it from us for. The importance of knowing your numbers. So here's an example of a whole, like this was a super, super quick little flip. Came from a TV commercial that we ran. Pretty far out of our territory, but we made good money on it. But we didn't do a whole lot for that project. These were some Airbnbs, turned around and sold them. We don't have all the details updated here. That's why we held it for 15 months, because we turned it into Airbnb. Cool little farmhouse we did. That's another little farmhouse. This one's in downtown Boise. It was recently turned into an Airbnb. This is a duplex by BSU. Some land stuff and some older deals. So that's basically what my investor packet looks like. And when we go through that, you know, we're just trying to go slow. We're trying to call out any fears that they might have ahead of time. We're just trying to give them an understanding of what it's like to invest with us. And I always tell them there's no pressure if they don't want to invest. It's totally fine. You know, there's always going to be more deals. But that I always do give preference to my lenders who have already been investing with me. So the only way someone else can get into a deal with me is if all my other investors' money was already in a deal. So there is a capacity that is limited, right? And that's something I try, you know, I just try to be honest and transparent about it, because I'm going to always reward the people that have always been loyal to me. So I let my lenders who have already been investing have first dibs at a deal. I got a question that came through. What skills do you think are essential to be an efficient real estate investor? I think that's a great question. I think one, being focused, and being able to hang in there, being resilient and focused, I think are massively important. So resilient, why? You've got to be able to do the same thing consistently day in and day out, and not quit, and not, you know, change paths, and not say, well, I heard someone else was being successful on this side of real estate, so I'm going to go do that. Well, I heard someone else was doing really well in self-storage, so I'm going to go do that. You can stay consistent to one specific asset class or strategy long enough to achieve the success you need, stabilize that, you know, build a team around that before you move on to the next asset class. In my business, for example, you do see that I do a diversity of things. Well, my wholesaling department runs almost without me. So my entire acquisitions and leads department almost doesn't need me, right? I pay Justin pretty well to run that. You know, he actually gets a percentage of profit, but it doesn't need me anymore. So then it gives me time to run my flips. Previously in my flip business, I had a flip partner. So I also didn't have to run the flips. So that gave me time to figure out how to do these Airbnbs. That gave me time to raise more money, to build these packets, to jump on calls like this, right? So now I don't have a partner anymore, but I have an operations manager who runs about 75% of my flips. I'll take on the more complicated ones with larger rehabs, but she runs all the other smaller flips for me. So it gives me time to pursue these other strategies. But when you're a single person team, you've got to be focused and resilient on one strategy until you nail it. Because there's somebody successful in every single strategy. There's people out there building successful single home rental portfolios. That's traditionally really hard to be successful on single home rentals. There's people out there succeeding in, you know, glamping sites. A good friend of mine, Heather Blankenship, builds glamping resorts where she sells like luxury canvas tents and makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in rental. It's super cool. People out there being really successful, you know, Airbnb, Airstream trailers. You know, you just got to be consistent. How do I compensate my team? It's a great question. So acquisitions guys are usually they're usually money motivated. So my acquisitions guys are paid commissions. So the VAs get a small hourly rate. They're paid $5 an hour. They're from the Philippines. And then we also give them a $100 bonus for every deal that we close that they touch, but they have to have touched it at some part in the process. Justin started off at 10% of profit. And then he also got He also got a 10% of cash flow because for them, it's not really enticing or exciting when I go to hold something when they could have made money on it as a flip. So then he does get 10% of cash flow. He was recently promoted and now he gets 35% of our profits on our wholesales. But again, why is that worth it to me to give away so much? It's worth it to me to give away so much because I don't actually run that department anymore. It's completely hands off for me. And then Sam, my operations manager, is paid hourly. She used to be paid salary. I don't think I'll ever do salaried employees again. It becomes difficult. The flip business changes, right? Some days or some weeks we'll work 45 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and some weeks we might work 25 or 35 hours a week. So I don't like having the inflexibility to always have to have something to do for everybody on the team. So I just go hourly from now on all the employees. And then with Justin's commission bump, to go back to that, he no longer receives hourly, he's just straight commission now. And then Caleb gets paid off of the Airbnb bookings. And then he also gets hourly rate. So I always like to combine an hourly rate and I like to keep that lower. And then I like my team to make 50% or more of their income from commissions, because then our business is driven off of everybody wanting to perform. It's a performance-based team. And you do have to build that team selectively. Some people hate that. Sam, my operations manager, if you notice, she doesn't have commissions. She does get quarterly bonuses with the rest of the team if we succeed and hit our goals, but she would absolutely hate having commissions because she's not built like that. But all the other guys and all the other roles, they're all built where they're money hungry and they're okay with the unknown of what they're going to get paid in hopes that they can chase these bigger deals. All right, how long did it take to scale from day one to build my team? Man, a couple of years. So you really have to be patient with the process. You have to become somebody worth following. Having a little bit of a success record definitely helps with getting people on board to be a part of your team. So I'll give you a quick rundown. 2017, I started trying to wholesale. It took me 8 months. I actually went and worked for a mentor for almost free for like 8 months. Learned a lot from them. Went out on my own, took on a partner, bought a house hack, started flipping houses. And I would say, I guess from starting wholesaling in 2017, I probably didn't get my first employee until like the end of 2019. So like 2.5 years. A question that I love getting that I've seen a lot of people ask is, how do you decide how to make your first hire? To me, I hire out my weakness, and I highly recommend you hire out your weakness too. My weakness is anything to do with data entry, anything to do with just medial tasks or being consistent on tasks. I'm not a consistent person on tasks. I like sales. I'm a sales guy naturally. So I hired a personal assistant first. She would help me make my utility bills. She would help me stay on track of calendar tasks. She would respond to requests from the lenders for payments and insurances and all the little stuff that I hate doing. So she bought back my time. I was able to do more of what I love, which allowed me to then make more money, which then allowed me to hire more people. So yeah, it took me probably 2 years to really get to a point where I could hire my first assistant. Also, I want you guys to challenge the way you think about building a team. You know, like I said earlier, my title lady is an extension of my team. We have a really great relationship. I took time to develop and curate that. She goes above and beyond for me, and I would do the same for her. So think of these other people as extensions of your teams. You need help comping? Maybe find a really awesome real estate agent who's newer and wants to get into investing and wants to do some work with you, and say, hey, look, if I send you 5 addresses a day, can you comp them all out and tell me where they're at? They're going to get their reps in. You have an extension of yourself to get 5 comparables ran without you having to spend your time doing it. So you can think creatively about how to build your team. The next question, or one of the questions further down, is like using VAs is another great way to build your team. We use VAs for virtual driving for dollars. So say you had a corporate job, you worked 10 hours a day, pay a VA, $15 a day to do virtual driving for you in whatever city you're trying to do deals in. So you can do it for 3 hours. In 3 hours, you should probably be able to get, 20 or 30, probably more than that, 50 or 60 deals put into Deal Machine or whatever system you're going to use. How do you recommend finding the best private money lenders? That's a great question. So for me, I've gotten some lenders from social media, just being vocal about what I'm doing. But a lot of my stuff just came from personal relationships. Letting people know what I'm doing. You got to talk about it. You got to share your story, share where you're failing, share where you're succeeding. Friends and family is a great place to start. A lot of people might say, well, my friends and family don't have any money. A lot of times you just haven't asked the right questions. So people have money in 401ks. a lot of my investors started off with money in 401ks, and I helped them transition it into what are called self-directed 401ks, which means they can direct the investment. The key here is that whatever interest they make has to go back into their self-directed 401k account. The company that we use for that is Mountain West IRA. It's actually a company in Boise. They can service anyone in the country. So you just being knowledgeable on that type of stuff can help a lot of people open up an investment channel they didn't know was available to them and tap into cash that was not available to them to direct. So, you know, I actually, from my job at Enterprise a number of years ago, I didn't know I had a retirement account there. I had like 15 grand in that account. I moved it into a self-directed IRA account, and I occasionally lend that out to somebody on some flips or whatever it may be. Some of my students have lended it out to them. But, you know, that's not a substantial amount to do a big deal or anything like that. But one key thing to know about the self-directed IRA accounts, oftentimes you gotta talk to your own, the lending institution that you're going to use for it. Sometimes depending on the type of account you have set up, you can't use that self-directed IRA to fund your own real estate deal. Some of them allow you to do that. And if you do that, any rent you get or any profit you get from that has to go back to your self-directed IRA account. It can't go to you personally. All right, which company do you use from the Philippines? So I actually use Upwork, and I hire a lot of my VAs from Upwork. I'll type in the specific skill set I need, and I'll use that. But like I said earlier, you know, right now our cold callers are from Upwork. That's where we found them. Prior to that, I used Star Virtual, and I did enjoy that company. They're a little bit more expensive, but they train the VAs for you. So if you're not good at cold calling, I would hire somebody else who's already training and running that for you. Star Virtual would be a great choice. If you don't sell quickly, do you make it an Airbnb? It's a fantastic exit strategy. Some of my flips have been like 12 or 14 month flips. And in that example, if I can get, here's a perfect example of it. I had a duplex, right? And we were converting the duplex into townhomes so that they could be sold separately. Well, the rehab was already done. The townhome process is going to take an extra 8 months. Turn one side into an Airbnb. That thing makes like $3,500 a month. The hard money payment on that is only $2,700 a month. So the whole entire building's free and clear off of one rental. It's a great way to reduce my holding costs, increase my profit, reduce my risk. And now, too, if I decide to keep it at the end of this period where we're transitioning into townhomes, I have seasoning on it for Airbnb numbers, so it's going to be easier to get a loan. What software do you use to manage your team? So for a while, we used Monday.com, and I really liked that. It does take a lot of time to kind of like update the boards and like track everyone's tasks, but I keep it really simple now. We actually transitioned our whole team to a work from home. We're really trying to lean out our business and get rid of unnecessary expenses so we don't have an office anymore. And we use a little tiny trick that one of my private money lenders actually taught me for how he runs his companies. And basically what's called is 515s. So I write this down, it's really powerful. So at the end of every day, my employees are supposed to send me a list of everything they said they were going to do and how much of it they got done. Now, mind you, the important part is everything they said they were going to do. A lot of times they'll add what I've asked them to do to that list as well. But then I can hold them accountable. I'm like, hey, you said you could get this done. You didn't get it done. What happened? And what are you going to do about it tomorrow? Because, you know, tomorrow's got a new list. So that's a super simple way to just stay in contact with the team and track everything. We also use Slack. So each property has its own Slack channel. And then the individuals working inside of each flip are all a part of that individual Slack channel. And that's been pretty cool because it's basically like a group text, but you don't have to look through your phone, and you can do searches and the individual chats and all sorts of stuff. So I like Slack, I like Monday, but sometimes being super simple and just giving an update to your team every single day via email or text or a morning call, a really easy way to keep everybody on the same page. What system do you use for your people calling from the Philippines? We use REI Sift. Batch has a dialer as well. Mojo dialer is pretty great. There's a lot of dialers out there. But I use the dialer instead of REI Sift because it just helps me manage my data better. It's a little expensive, but you just gotta, like I said, when you're gonna get ready to start the marketing, make sure you have enough to continue to do it for 6 to 8 months so you can really give it time to show results. And then also too, I think like if you call Star Virtual, I can't remember if I had to provide them a dialer or not, but they might have their own dialer. I would double check, or it might be at least be an option to get a dialer through them. All righty, cool guys. Well, I feel like I've talked for forever. I hope that was valuable. Best way to get a hold of me is I'm gonna open up this real quick. 1 second. Oh, actually, well, hold on. Let me get the link to a calendar call. Tangi, what's the best way to put the link on here?
So do you have it on like a document or a Word document? You can share your screen and show it.
Yeah, I can just log into I can log into my calendar account right now.
While you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen and talk about, the bonuses we have to offer. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
I'll give you time to do that. Hey guys, I hope you found value in that. I know I did. I've never got the pleasure of having him speak before, so it was great information for me to hear myself. So I really appreciate that. So some of the bonuses that we offer here, I listed earlier, but one of the things we're going to do for you guys is we're going to give you a free county. So anybody who buys between now and Friday, we usually charge 50% off for a free county. But as Noah was saying earlier, it's really important that you want to do at least a 6-month commitment. So the free county is not being offered on the 3-month. We want you to give your list a chance to produce and actually have time to function for you. And when you work your list, don't get me wrong, he's right. It takes time. However, there are some scenarios, and I have a lot of investors that will buy the list and just a few weeks later, they're closing the deal. And sometimes it happens that way. I literally had a guy a few weeks back wholesale a deal in the Florida area and made $75,000 assignment fee in just a couple of weeks. Now, it usually is not that quick, so don't expect that, but it's just a fantastic success story. His VA reached out to a couple people and literally, I think it was last month actually, and the second phone call for the VA landed him a $75,000 assignment fee. So, I mean, in like a week before that, a guy made $100,000, and that's an assignment fee. So that's really good. So like if you're interested in purchasing probates for 6 months, it's $999. It's usually $1,300, but that's discounted for being on this call with me and Noah today. So it's going to be $999 for 26 weeks. That means you're going to get new leads every Wednesday for the next 26 weeks. And you're going to get a free county if you purchase by Friday, and you don't have to pay 50% off for that free county. So $599 for 3 months, $999 for 6 months, which is a $200 savings, $1,750 for a year. And that's one county, one of these lists, not all of these lists, but you get to pick one of these lists. Now, if you want to buy multiple lists, like I have a lot of people that will say, okay, Tangi, I want to buy all 6. And I'll drop the price even more for you to help you out. So just reach out to me between now and Friday. If you have a representative, you're already working with the company, you obviously want to reach out to them. If you're working with Angela, reach out to her. If you're working with Joe, reach out to him. If not, definitely reach out to me. I'm Tangi. I'm at Tangi at ForeclosuresDaily.com. Just take a screenshot, a picture of this screen. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for just a moment here because Noah's getting his information up for you. He's going to provide you with a link to give you something very, very special. He was talking about that deal analyzer sheet. So he's going to provide you with a link to get in contact with him to get access to that. So I'm going to stop my screen. Let's see here. Noah's getting that stuff ready in the background. How you doing?
A small issue. My podcast guy that controls my calendar account, I can't log into the calendar account to get the calendar link. So instead, I'm just going to give you guys one of my I'm going to give you guys my work phone number. And if you guys send me a text, I will get you a copy of that deal analyzer sheet. So,
wow, that's pretty awesome. You're actually going to give out your
the work phone number. So I do get to go home and shut that number off, which is nice. But
be nice to him, guys.
Okay.
So, guys, I don't know, for some reason it never lets me type in the chat. So, Spencer, I see your Spencer Davis. If you're still on here, type yes. And when Noah gives his cell number out, just type that in there for me, Spencer or Elaine, one of you two.
Okay, if everybody's ready to write this down, because I don't see a way that I can type in the chat either. Actually, unless I go answer live, no, I just type answer. I don't know if everybody will be able to see this, but I'll give this a shot.
They will, as long as you type the answer. But we have, write it down, guys. Write it down for them too.
Okay, so it's 208-918-3702. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. It's going to show up in the answered questions. So you guys send that.
Say it again. And one of you guys type that in the chat for us. Say it again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So 208-918-3702. So when you text me,
I also typed it in the chat as well.
perfect. Text me with your first and last name and your email, because that's the only way I can share the sheet with you. So really appreciate you, Tanji, opening this up and having me on here. Hopefully you guys got some value out of that and you're ready to go take on your next deal. One thing to go over with you real quick. So I'm going to open up 5 slots this week where I'll do a free 30-minute consultation with you guys. We'll go over your business, whatever capacity it is that you're looking to get into. We'll make sure that you're off on the right track. Go a little deeper on your marketing systems and make sure you're set up to be successful there. So I'm only going to open up 5 of them, 30-minute sessions. I'm probably going to pick the first 5 people that text me.
There you go. Text them your name, your email, your phone number. You've got 5 slots, 30-minute consultation to go over your business model. And also he'll get you that deal analyzer if you send him your name, email, and phone number. So when you send him your name, email, and phone number, if you want one of those slots, say on there, hey, I want the analyzer plus I want a 30-minute slot. That way he knows, okay?
Yep.
So tell him, you got to tell him. You can't just send him your name, email, and phone number because, you know, he doesn't know if you want that 30-minute slot. So make sure you tell him, hey, I want the analyzer and I want the 30-minute slot. So
it's perfect. Awesome. Tanji, thank you so much. You're awesome. And you guys, seriously, like I've used Tanji's leads before, the probate leads. We've gotten deals from that. It does work. You do have to work them. You got to be consistent. You know, educate yourself on how to talk to these, sellers, how to add value to them, how to help them. And I think if you first and foremost keep in mind you want to help people, I think that's how you're going to be successful.
yeah, and when you were trying to find your calendar, I told everybody that if they purchase a 6-month deal, and thank you for saying that because it's so important, because people just think I'm just saying to buy 6 months so I can get 6 months, you know, guys. And at the end of the day, I'm saying it because your success is my success. So if you're not successful, then I'm not going to be successful. So making longer commitments is really important.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Thank you so much, Tanji.
All right, guys. Thank you. And Phyllis, oh, before we go, Phyllis typed her name, email, and phone number. No, Phyllis, you gotta send him a text. His number is, what's his number again?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Your phone number?
It's 208-918-3702.
Phyllis, you need to text him at that phone number I just sent to you. And you send him your name, your email, and phone number. Don't put it on the chat because we're hanging this meeting up and it's going to go bye-bye. So everybody text him. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great evening. And thanks, Noah.
See you guys. Appreciate y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.